My fiancée disappeared 2 weeks before the wedding. When I found her, she was partying in Ibiza. I canceled everything and everyone called me dramatic. But now I know I made the best decision of my life. I'm 29 years old. I work in digital marketing. And what happened a year ago literally changed the complete course of my life. I mean, we were 2 weeks away from getting married when my fiancée just disappeared. And when I say disappeared, it's not like she went to buy milk and took a while. Like the woman vanished from the apartment without saying anything, without a note, without a message, nothing. I guess I should start from the beginning so this makes sense. Because what happened is so surreal that sometimes I still wake up thinking it was a horrible nightmare. I met Victoria like 5 years ago at a work conference, one of those where everyone walks around with their name tag and pretends to be super interested in the boring presentations, but really, they're just there for the networking and free food. She worked in public relations for a big company. She was smart, funny. We had the same taste in music and movies, and honestly, I thought I'd won the lottery. A few years were amazing. We moved in together after a year and a half. We adopted a cat. His name is Mr. Whiskers. Don't ask. It was her idea, and everything seemed to be going perfectly well. Seriously, I'm not idealizing the past or anything like that. Things genuinely were good between us, or at least that's what I believed. I proposed like a year and a half ago at a normal dinner. Nothing super elaborate because Victoria always said she hated dramatic public proposals. It was in our apartment. I had cooked her favorite pasta, which by the way turned out horrible, but she ate the whole plate, so I wouldn't feel bad. And when we finished dinner, I pulled out the ring. She cried. I cried. The cat looked at us like we were idiots, but it was perfect in its own way. We started planning the wedding almost immediately because we both wanted something relatively soon, none of those eternal 3-year engagements, and we set the date for September of the following year. The planning was mostly smooth. We had some typical arguments about the guest list and budget, but nothing out of the ordinary according to what other friends told us about their experiences. Everything started getting weird like a month before the wedding. Looking back, I should have seen it coming, but I was so caught up in the final details that I didn't pay attention to the signs. Victoria started being more distant, spent a lot of time on her phone, laughed at things she didn't share with me, and when I asked her what was wrong, she always said nothing, that she was just stressed with work. I believed her because, honestly, I was stressed too. We had to confirm the menu with the caterer, send out the last invitations, coordinate with the photographer, a ton of things. 2 weeks before the wedding, 2 damn weeks, I woke up on a Thursday morning, and Victoria wasn't in bed. I thought she had gotten up early to go to the gym or something, but when I went to the kitchen there was no coffee made, no note, and her cell phone went straight to voicemail. I started getting worried like at 9 in the morning when she still wasn't answering. I called her work and they told me she had taken the week off, which was weird because she hadn't told me anything. By 11, I was in total panic mode. You know what I mean? I called her parents, her sister, her best friends, and nobody knew where she was. Her mom got hysterical on the phone saying she was going to call the police. Her dad tried to calm her down while I swore to them that Victoria was fine the night before, that we had dinner together and watched a movie before going to sleep. The police basically told me they couldn't do anything because not enough time had passed and there were no signs of violence or kidnapping, that she probably just needed space. 2 weeks before our wedding. I spent that whole day calling her, texting her, checking hospitals just in case she'd had an accident. Literally, I thought of every possible scenario. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I stayed on the couch with the phone in my hand waiting for it to ring, and Mr. Whiskers stayed with me all night like he knew something was wrong. The next day, Friday, one of her college friends posted a story on Instagram. Those that last 24 hours. And there was Victoria, in Spain, at a nightclub, laughing with a group of people I didn't recognize, with a drink in her hand and dressed for partying. I stood there, staring at the phone screen like an idiot, for I don't know how long. My brain just couldn't process what I was seeing. I checked the profile of the guy who had posted the photo, and it turns out he was part of her college friend group, people she supposedly barely talked to anymore. I kept investigating like a private detective and found more photos on other accounts. Victoria had flown to Spain, specifically to Ibiza, with like 5 of her college friends for a week of partying. 1 week of our wedding, without telling me absolutely anything. I sent her like 20 messages asking what the hell was going on, left her voicemails, and nothing. Her friends started blocking me on social media, which was super weird and made me feel like the villain of the story when I was the one who had no idea where my fiancé was. Finally, like on the 3rd day, Victoria called me. She was at a bar or nightclub. You could hear music blasting in the background, and she sounded annoyed, like I was the one who was overreacting. She told me, and I quote verbatim because those words are burned into my brain. My friends organized this surprise trip and I deserve to have fun before getting married. You're being ridiculous. I'm coming back on Tuesday and we can talk then. I asked her if she was joking. I told her I'd spent 3 days thinking she was dead or kidnapped, that her family was desperate, that we had 1,000 things to do for the wedding, and she just laughed and said, I was overreacting, that everything was going to be fine. I told her we needed to talk now, that this wasn't normal, and she answered something like, Look, Christopher, deal with this now. I'm going to enjoy my trip. And she hung up. She just hung up. I stood there in the middle of the living room with the phone in my hand, feeling like someone had kicked me in the stomach. I called my parents and told them everything, expecting them to support me. And my mom immediately took Victoria's side, saying she was probably stressed and needed to clear her mind before the wedding. My dad said something like, Women are complicated, son. Give her space. Give her space. Really? I called my best friend from college, Marcus, and he was the only one who told me, Dude, that's not right. You know that's not right. And he was right. I knew it wasn't right, but everyone else was making me feel like I was the crazy one, like being angry because my fiancé disappeared without saying anything 2 weeks before the wedding was an overreaction. I spent that weekend in some kind of emotional limbo. I didn't know what to feel. I was angry, but also confused and hurt. And there was a part of me that kept waiting for Victoria to call and say it had all been a horrible misunderstanding. On Monday, I started getting messages from her friends defending her, saying I was controlling for being upset, that she deserved to have her bachelorette party her way, and that I was ruining what should be a celebration. One of them, I don't remember which, because I blocked them all later. It sent me a long message explaining that they had planned the trip as a surprise and that Victoria initially didn't want to go, but they convinced her by telling her it was her last chance to be free before getting married. That phrase, last chance to be free, kept spinning in my head for days. On Tuesday, Victoria came back, well, technically she came back because she knocked on the apartment door like at 6 in the evening. I was inside. I had missed work all week, because honestly, I couldn't function. And when I heard the doorbell, I knew it was her. I didn't open it. I sat on the couch staring at the door while she knocked and yelled my name. Eventually she left, and like an hour later the messages started, that we needed to talk, that I was being immature, to let her in so she could explain. I answered her only once, a message that said, The wedding is canceled. You can come pick up your things whenever you want, but there's nothing to talk about. What followed was absolute chaos. Victoria started calling all our acquaintances, telling them her version of events, that I had canceled the wedding because she took a few days for herself, that I was being dramatic and vindictive. Her parents came to the apartment to knock on the door. Her mom was crying on the other side, telling me to please reconsider, that Victoria made a mistake but loved me. Her dad was more direct. He told me I was throwing away a 5-year relationship over a misunderstanding. I explained to them through the door that it wasn't a misunderstanding, that Victoria consciously decided to go on a trip without telling me anything, knowing we were 2 weeks away from getting married, that she had left me worried to death, and that when she finally called me, she didn't show even a bit of remorse. I don't know if they believed me or if they just wanted things to go back to normal, but eventually they left. I had to make all the cancellations, call the reception venue. We lost the entire deposit, like $5,000. The photographer, we lost that deposit too. The DJ, the florist, literally every vendor we had hired. Some were understanding, others not so much. I sent a mass email to all the guests, saying the wedding was canceled due to personal circumstances, and after that I turned off my phone for 2 full days because I couldn't deal with the questions and comments. When I turned it back on, I had like 200. messages, and 50 missed calls. Most were from people asking what had happened. Some were from Victoria's friends accusing me of publicly humiliating her, and there were several from my own friends and family telling me I was making a mistake. Victoria came to pick up her things like a week later. She arrived with her dad on a Saturday morning. I had packed everything in boxes, her clothes, her books, her bathroom products, everything that was hers. We didn't talk much. She tried to start a conversation like 3 times, but I just pointed at the boxes and told her that was everything. She looked terrible, honestly. Her eyes were swollen like she'd been crying a lot, but I didn't feel anything. I mean, I did feel things, but it was like I was emotionally numb. Her dad loaded the boxes into the car, and before leaving, Victoria told me, "You're going to regret this, Christopher." And I just closed the door without answering. Mr. Whiskers stayed with me. Technically, he was hers, but she didn't ask for him. And honestly, I think even the cat knew things weren't going to work out. The next few months were probably the hardest of my life. I'm not going to lie and say I was fine or that I got over everything quickly, because I didn't. I lost like 10 pounds because I had no appetite, barely slept, and at work I was a functional zombie doing the bare minimum. My parents kept pressuring me to talk to Victoria and fix things. My mom called me every other day telling me I was being stubborn and that I was going to end up alone. Several mutual friends took Victoria's side. I guess she told them a version of events that made me look like the bad guy. And little by little, my social circle got smaller. I blocked almost everyone on social media. Not because I was angry at them specifically, but because every time I saw something related to Victoria or people defending her, I felt like someone was squeezing my chest. Like a month after all the drama, something super weird happened to me. I was at a coffee shop near my work. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and Victoria walked in with a friend I didn't know. We made direct eye contact for a second. It was super awkward, and she approached my table. She asked me how I was. I told her fine. She said she was glad. I nodded, and she left. The whole interaction lasted maybe 30 seconds, but left me shaking. Literally, I had to leave the coffee shop because I felt like I couldn't breathe properly. That night, I made the decision to start therapy. Something I probably should have done much earlier, because obviously I wasn't processing things in a healthy way. My therapist, a lady like 60 years old named Donna, helped me a lot to understand my emotions and why I felt so betrayed. It wasn't just about the trip to Spain, although that obviously was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was everything that trip represented. It was the lack of communication, the total disregard for my feelings, the way Victoria had prioritized her, fun over our relationship, and how when we finally talked, she made me feel like I was the problem. Donna explained to me that I was in a grieving process, not just for the relationship, but for the life I had imagined with Victoria, and that it was completely valid to feel angry and hurt and confused all at the same time. I started going to the gym. Not for any noble reason like improving my health. Literally, I just needed to do something with all the nervous energy and rage I was feeling. Turns out lifting weights is excellent therapy. Who would have thought? I also threw myself into work, accepted extra projects, stayed late, anything to keep my mind busy. My coworkers vaguely knew what had happened, but nobody asked direct questions, which I appreciated. Like 6 months in, Victoria sent me a text message. It was super brief. Something like, "I hope you're well, Christopher. Just wanted you to know I think about you." I don't know what she expected me to do with that information. I answered, "Thanks, I hope you're well too," and left the conversation there. The truth is that by that point, I no longer felt the intense rage from the beginning. It had evolved into a kind of indifference mixed with occasional sadness. There were good days and bad days. Days where I felt completely fine and optimistic about the future, and days where I stayed in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what would have happened if I had reacted differently. Donna constantly reminded me that ruminating about what-ifs didn't help anything, that the only thing I could control was how I moved forward. And technically she was right, although in the moment it didn't always help to hear it. Like exactly a year after all the mess, I went to the wedding of a college friend, Marcus, the same one who had supported me from the beginning. I was nervous about going because I knew Victoria had also been invited. We were from the same original social circle, but my new girlfriend Rachel Way started dating, like 4 months earlier. She's a graphic designer, and we met at the gym of all possible ways, convinced me to go. And sure enough, Victoria was there, with her new boyfriend. It was super weird seeing her. I'm not gonna lie, but it was also like closing a chapter definitively. We greeted each other from afar. I made eye contact with her boyfriend, who looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and what seemed like compassion, and that was it. There was no drama, no awkward conversations, just two people who once planned to get married, now living completely separate lives. Rachel asked me afterwards how I felt, and I told her the truth, that I felt relieved. Relieved that I hadn't gone through with the wedding, relieved that I had made the difficult decision to cancel everything when my instinct told me something was fundamentally wrong, and relieved to be exactly where I was at that moment. It wasn't easy getting there, definitely. And there were moments where I doubted myself and I wondered if I really was being dramatic like everyone said. But looking back, I know I did the right thing. If Victoria could disappear 2 weeks before our wedding without any remorse, what other things would she have done during our marriage? What other boundaries would she have crossed, justifying it as something she deserved? My parents eventually apologized for not supporting me at first. I think it took seeing how genuinely devastated I was to understand it wasn't simply a tantrum. My relationship with them is still a bit tense, but we're working on it. The friends who really mattered stayed. The ones who didn't, well, I guess they weren't such good friends after all. Mr. Whiskers is still the best roommate, although now he has to share attention with Rachel, who adores him. And me, well, I'm fine. Not perfect. Not completely healed. But fine. There are still days where I think about everything that happened and feel a pang of something. I don't know if it's sadness or anger or just the ghost of what could have been, but it passes quickly and I move on. Last week, Rachel and I were watching a movie on the couch. It was a horrible romantic comedy she chose, and I pretended to hate but secretly enjoyed. And at one point she turned to look at me and said, "You know I love you, right?" And I told her yes. And the weird thing is that when she said it, I didn't feel panic or fear or that voice in my head telling me I was going to end up hurt again. I just felt warmth and gratitude to be with someone who communicates, who respects me, who wouldn't disappear 2 weeks before something important because her friends planned a surprise trip. It's incredible how low your standard can be after a toxic relationship. Now I value things I used to take for granted, like your partner telling you where they are or answering the phone or, you know, not abandoning you without warning. And that's enough for now, I guess. More than enough, actually.